want to fend for myself, and I want to build people up for them to fend for themselves. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a new edition of the Free Like Me podcasts. I'm your host, Clark Fredericks. Guests come in here, they speak their truth, they leave their shame behind, and they walk out of here free like me. My book, Scarred, is up on Amazon for pre-orders. It comes out July 29th. Don't wait till the last second. I'll be knocking on your door telling you to go get one if you do that. If you want to be a guest on the show or talk about my coaching program, reach out to me privately on any social media site or head over to my website, freelike-me.com, and we'll set up a consultation call. And this week I'm wearing a Bunky's Towing and Automotive shirt. My good friend Rob owned Bunky's, and a few years ago he took his own life, and it was coming out of the winter time when he did that. And he had some personal stuff going on in his life with his marriage, and just in a dark spot, he did something rash and took his own life. If you're in that dark hole, just remember there's seasons to life, and there's cold, dark winters, and then there's beautiful springs ahead. So just hang in there and don't do anything rash. And this week I have retired NYPD officer Pasquale with us, and he wants to leave his shame behind. He came in here and he's ready to talk about his past and just to get a new lease on life. So let's meet Pasquale. Pasquale, my brother, thanks for being here.
What's up, Clark? Good morning.
I'm excited, but I'm also interested in why guests reach out to me. Like, you know, you're a retired cop, you know, you got this persona, you know, you got to have a little bravado, I would assume, as a cop, and you're protecting people, and, you know, you got to hold yourself in a certain image. And I'm coming here to talk about your deepest, darkest secrets of your childhood that have haunted you. Like, what's made you want to reach out to me and share this?
Well, when I first came across your page, and probably about 8 months ago, I would say, I was like, holy shit. It's like, wow, this guy's talking about shit that I went through, you know, and, you know, and then following you, but I yet did not have the courage, inner fortitude to reach out to you. And then I've been to therapy. I probably went through 6 or 7 therapists, you know, throughout my lifetime. Then I started with one. She was really the one that propelled me to go further. And I just, at that point, the more I talked about it, about the abuse, it was unlocking stuff within me. I felt that. And then I don't know which story that you had on Instagram or whatever one it was. I was like, you know what, I'm reaching out to him. And I'm like, because I got to the point where I needed to talk about it more.
Right.
Because the more I felt I talked about it, more it helped me. And I just wanted to help others.
I try to respond to almost every comment. I respond to every private message, but comments, I try to, you know, people are taking their time out to listen to what I got to say and leave a comment. I want to respond. So I would see you comment, and then all of a sudden I got a private message from you. I was like, wow. Cool.
Yeah, I did. Exactly. I made some comments. That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
That's probably you, like putting your big toe in the water, like testing the water.
Testing the water. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And then I was thrilled when you said you wanted to come on and speak.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, it was cool because you reached out and I was like, holy shit. You know, I was like, reached out and then we spoke and, you know, and I was super excited for it. And I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, cool, man. You brought a picture with you, and you were born in Italy. Correct, and your parents came over here. They were first generation immigrants and brought you over with them. Let's just see this little blonde-haired, cute little kid.
3-year-old, 3.
And you brought that just to show like your pure little innocence and essence that you were born with before it started to go south.
Because we're all born this way.
Yeah.
Every single one of us. We're all born with a sense of we're pure, in a sense we're, innocent, and I lost it
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah, man.
Not to say that it happened when I was 3 years old, it's years later that it happened, but the whole point of this is just an innocent boy. That's really what it comes down to.
Right.
When people do the things they do to kids, your innocence is gone.
Yep.
Totally gone. I've said that.
Before we started this, I was talking to you. Like for the documentary I filmed, I had to go through all our childhood photo albums we had, and I was that little blonde haired kid also, smiling, and then the abuse happened, and I can just see in my eyes a haunting look, like I just see it in all the pictures, and it's just something's been taken away from me.
I can never get that back.
Yeah,
you can't get back that innocence. When I see my grandchildren and I see kids and I see that innocence, it makes me happy. But I could never get mine back. I don't have it. It was taken. Really, it's taken from you, and then it leads you to a path of destruction.
correct.
Okay? Leads you to a path of being something that you're not, because now you feel you're not worthy. You overreach, you overextend, you do things, then your ego kicks in. And you, just like we said before, you try to be somebody that you're not. And all I ever wanted was love. Right?
Yeah.
So, and it's a tough, it's amazing that I went through life and I had to fight, like I said, survival mode. I had to fight and survive each step I took, to get to where I'm at right now, today. But it leaves a path of 2 divorces for me, failed relationships, excessive drinking. Thank God I didn't go, a road of drug abuse. I mean, it got to a point, you drink excessively because you just numb the pain. Or in my case, I womanized, chased women. But it was temporary Band-Aids.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes, and I say this, and it's been thrown in my face that because I chased women, that it was a choice I made. Yes, it was a choice I made. Of course, I'm not, and of course, I highly say it right now. It was the wrong thing to do. Infidelities is wrong. What we're doing here is communicating, which is the key to everything. Is just explain your feelings. But it was thrown in my face that it was an excuse, that I used because I was, that was my excuse. But hey, listen, okay, that's how you feel, but it really wasn't an excuse. I just wasn't happy. I wasn't happy with who I was. And talking about what you just said, the pictures, and you see these pictures of happiness, and yes, we want that, but we're fucking hurting inside because we haven't fixed that yet. We haven't freed ourselves internally from the shame, the embarrassment, the guilt, and we had nothing to do with it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, those of us who have been abused, we go through. You can even go through stages with your sexuality of either being hypersexual,
right.
Because, for me, it was, like my mind said, we'll get rid of these insecurities and self-loathing and self-hatred we have by sleeping with enough women,
Yeah.
And it literally left me like a shell, because I'm hurting women all along the road of doing that. And
exactly.
you're just adding more pain, trauma to your system, and it's not doing it. It's a temporary, like when you're in the act and you're in the chase, your mind's blocked out from that trauma.
It's after.
Yeah, it's almost immediately after.
It's like what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it's either that hypersexuality or no sex at all. Like a lot of women guess like I couldn't be touched. I'm trying to get over that now. Like of letting a guy touch me, sexually, like because it's triggering. We go through life almost like in a subconscious way. Like our subconscious is leading the thing. We're not present. We're like there's just something that is grinding in us and motivating us to do what we do.
I remember I went for a prostate exam, right?
Yeah.
And first time, and I'm like, I had to be in my 30s, late 30s. Yeah, it was in my 30s. The guy comes in, and he's like, "All right, you got to take take your pants down and blah blah blah." So it's all right. He comes back in, and he's like, "Well, you got to take your underwear off." I go, "For what?" He's like, "I have to check your prostate." And I'm like, "Well, all right." So I put my arm out. And I go, "All right, here, take a blood test." The guy goes, "No, it doesn't work like that." So he's like, "I have to." I'm like, I'm no shit. I shit you not, Clark. I put my pants back on. I said, "No, this shit's not for me."
I'm smiling, like I'm not trying not to laugh because I've went through the same thing.
I was like, no. I was like, this fuck shit's not for me. I was like, I left. But okay, but again, it's triggering that part of a man. It just brings me back, and I took off. Of course, I had to go back. Had to because something going on, and it was. I mean, I can laugh about it now,
right?
Because it's comical, but it really wasn't, comical then. It fucked me up. It just brings shit back that, and then you do self-destructive shit to turn off that emotions. And I said to you once before, I can turn it off. The simple flick of how we turn a light on, switch. Those were my emotions. I would bury it, shut it down.
Right.
That's the only way that's the only way I knew how to deal with it, was to shut it down and then just do stupid shit.
I've told all my doctors, like when I went for first prostate exam, I'm like, look, I was abused and raped as a kid. Do what you got to do. If you do one extra wiggle up there, we're going to have a friggin' problem. I told him the time, he's like, got this look. I'm like, and he's like,
he wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. I'm like, and then like, the colonoscopy doctor,
right.
Same thing with him. And I got a urologist, because of peeing that night. And I'm like, and he's got to check I'm like, dude, look, I got to tell you something, So he's like, okay. So I hear you, man.
Yeah.
It was like, oh. Yeah. And this is all after I got out of prison. I'm doing all this stuff. Like, I wasn't going to a doctor for my prostate.
Yeah, you weren't doing it right
earlier on. No way, man.
At one point, like I wanted to, I know you went to prison, and I know, the story, because you talk about it, and I wanted to kill
your abuser.
I wanted to, definitely wanted to, and by the grace of God, I didn't.
Right.
One, I was probably too afraid. I was too young, but I didn't do it. I saw him twice. But when I saw him, I went away. I moved myself away. I removed myself from where I was.
Right.
Not because I was going to, do physical harm or anything like that. I just didn't want, to be around them. Because again, it brings up.
Yep.
I won't do it again. Ever, if I'm ever faced with him again. I will not run. I will stand there.
After college, I was in a local bar in my area, and me and a bunch of guys went there, and there's my abuser in there, and he's just like, "Hey, Clark," like not a care in the world, and like I'm just like,
Yeah.
like just freaking out, and I go to my friends, I'm like, hey, let's pound these beers. I was driving. I'm like, let's pound these beers, get out of here. They're like, we just got here. It's our first beer. I'm like, yeah, there's no chicks here. Let's go somewhere
Let's
else
go
where there's
somewhere.
chicks. This place is beat. Let's go. Let's pound these beers and get out of here. And they're like, all right, whatever, man. So yeah, it's just like I had to get away.
Yeah.
Like it just was suffocating me.
But I won't do it. I've forgiven because I had to. That was like each step of this is, it really starts as one, forgiving yourself.
Right. That's when people bring up forgiveness. I'm like, forgiveness should be directed towards yourself.
Yeah.
If nobody should ever tell you have to forgive your abuser. If you want to, that's on you.
Forgave myself for a lot of things, for a lot of things that had gone on in my life, because my second marriage was the downfall, was really, I hit rock bottom. So that was the beginning of my ascension, per se. I had to forgive myself that stage. Then I had to have the stage of forgiving him, not for him, to release any anger. You could still have it, but it was just I needed to do that. Then the third step was, here I am here. Well, the third step was actually being more open and vocal about it, step by step. Because if I went full force, but I don't know where I'd be if I went. I'm glad it went this way, because to me, I feel it needed to go this way. And then me talking about it, being more open to release the things. And the more I did, the more it released, and the more I felt better about it.
Are you currently in therapy now?
I still, yeah.
Did you tell your therapist you were doing
yeah,
this? What
yeah.
they say?
She loved it.
Yeah,
She thought it was great.
great.
Yeah.
Just
Anybody I've told, they said I'm proud of you.
just the next step in the
It's
journey.
just the next step in the journey.
So let's go back to where this hell started. You were, I think you told me, around 9 years old.
9 years old.
Yeah. So how did this all go down?
It was a neighbor. Started with baseball cards.
Now, how old's your neighbor? You're 9.
He had to be about at least 20, I would say 18 to 20 years, in his 20s.
So he's got you by a good decade.
Oh, at least. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And he's your next door neighbor.
Cross street, yeah.
And where'd you grow up?
In Deer Park.
In Deer Park?
Yeah.
Okay. So he's got the baseball cards.
Baseball cards, candy. Oh, hey, I want to show you something, blah, blah, blah. And it was in the basement, his house. And that's how it all began. And then there was don't tell anybody.
That's their big.
Because I'll hurt you, or I'll hurt your family. So that was he's in control, pretty much. So can't tell anybody. He's going to hurt me, hurt my family.
Right.
Getting baseball cards and able to ride mini bikes. There was always I hate to say it, it's a reward.
A gift or a reward attached to it.
And what the fuck do you know?
Right. And how did it start off in the basement? Was it touching, or did it go right into something?
No, it was touching, and then right anally.
Anal rape?
Yeah.
Wow.
I knew, as a boy, I'm trying to go back to it and my words, but it's fucking wrong. It's a sense of, like, holy shit, like, is this what it's supposed to be? And then I questioned, as I got older, my own sexuality.
Yeah, I think that
and I think
all of us,
right.
Yeah.
But going back, it was like right off the bat, like right there, and there's always a certain smell that I come across,
that musty basement
smell. man, it was like, I mean, it's okay. Like when it pops through now, because, you know, I'm able to cope with it and, you know, feel it, let it go, you know. But before that, wow, it was like it happened. Like it just happened.
Right.
When you pick up that scent, you know.
That scent takes you right back to his basement getting raped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He may not look at his rape, but you know, it's fucking rape, you know.
Yeah.
It's your boy.
Right.
You know.
How many times? How often?
Had to be about 4 or 5 times throughout the year. And it only stopped when his mother saw it.
She walked down?
She walked down.
In the midst of it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And one of his brothers.
Was with the mother?
Was with the mother. And I think the brother might have alerted the mother. And, you know, and it's the same thing you just said. It was like, you know, through the years, it's like, hey, how are you? Waving neighbors. Hi. You know, fucked up, but you know, hi.
Like the mother would just wave at you?
Yeah, hey, hi.
And like she literally walked in on you you getting raped.
Yeah.
And then what? Did he like pull out and jump up and like
yeah. And it's, you know, get out. You know, what do you do? Stay there? Me, I'm just fucking going, holy shit. You know.
And then that brought it to an end.
That pretty much brought it to an end. So who knows how long it would have went on for.
Right.
Yeah. If that didn't happen.
Now he's still living across the street from you.
No.
He's saying
No. Gone.
No, like right after that happened.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So like are you having any further interaction?
Of course, I would still go over there. The 4th of July parties. You understand? It was just, you know, thinking back at it and like, nobody knew. Like, nobody knew. My parents didn't know. My siblings didn't know. Nobody knew really what went on over there. You know, and a part of me growing up said, all right, maybe this is how it's, you know, this is how it's supposed, you know, it's how it's supposed to be, but it's not. As you get older, now you start to say, no, it's not how it's supposed to be. It's not.
I've heard from countless victims who have said like I didn't know any different at that age. Like I didn't know. I just thought, and then as I began getting older, like it's like no, that was wrong.
That was
like
fucking wrong.
Right. You know, I mean, you can tell, you feel whether it's right or wrong. But then you just like you just don't know.
You want to pretend that it didn't happen,
right?
But you know it did. And you're pretending that everything is like you're these fucking great, you know, this Long Island lifestyle, you know, suburbs and, you know, hi, you know, hey neighbor, hi neighbor. But there's a dark truth, you know, and just like you said, as you get older, you're like, no, that was wrong. And that was the beginning of like.
And then your mind's like an older version of your mind looking back at the younger self and then it just starts driving you nuts. Like, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I say
you start
this?
the question, why didn't I say it? Right? Why didn't I do that? Why, you know, why didn't I go after him? Why didn't I? It's the what ifs. It's the whys, like, you know, and it does drive yourself, you know, into what do you call it? Listen, it also, you know, when I was first married, you know, we had children, and you know, I have 2 kids, you know, a boy and a girl, and they're both married. Both, you know, my daughter has 2 boys. My son's gonna have his first granddaughter in about a week. So I remember I was so protective of where they went, you know, and I had this conversation with my daughter because I mentioned to you that I was going to tell them that I was doing this because I didn't want anybody to see it. And I'm sure there's going to be somebody that's going to view this that may know me, may not, or I didn't want it to get back to them without me saying something to them first, you know. And I was like, you know, I said, you remember when Vito used to go, you know, next door to Doug And my son was so infatuated with trucks, and he had equipment there, and and machines. Great guy. But in my mind, he's going there, and in my mind, I'm saying, "Oh my God!" It's like here's that little boy going somewhere, and it's like get. And I remember telling my wife at the time, I was like, "Get him home right now. I don't want him there." And I'm not saying that that's something that anything happened, but this is how I was operating, thinking, who do you don't want your kid there. Right. I told my daughter, I was like, I didn't want you to do sleepovers. I don't want you sleeping at anybody's house. They could sleep here. It's fine. But you're not sleeping it. And that was the norm.
I've heard that, countless times. Like
that was
sleepovers.
No.
Oh, it was my kid doing a sleepover.
No, ain't happening. And it's only because of because of what we went through, what I went through. It's really protecting. Was protecting them.
I mean, and then you're going over to parties there after this has happened, and then like that had to be hell. Like,
it's just when I think about it now, it's just like wow.
Yeah.
Because again, people don't really want it at that time. You're not facing the things that happen. You're just not facing it. You're pretending that it didn't happen. I went to see this. I went to see this guy, and he's a great guy. He's a very spiritual guy. He's a medium psychic, and he does all this. Great guy. I've talked to him, and he did this analogy, and because I said you start to question your own sexuality, right? I do not listen. I have gays in my family. There's gay people out there. If that's who you are, then that's who you are. For me, I'm a male. I like females. I like women. But at that time, I started saying to myself, I mean, is it maybe I'm gay? But I'm like, no, I like women, So we're having this conversation, and he goes, what if you were on an island, right? And it's just, you have a towel over your head, and you're getting a blowjob, and then you take the towel off, and it's a guy. He goes, it's the same thing. I remember saying it to him. I said, listen, I'd be fucking pissed. Yeah. I go, because I am not gay. I don't like men. I'm like, no, it wouldn't be the fucking same. It's absolutely not the same. I go, I don't agree with that. Because he was trying, because he knew, because I talked to him about what happened. I go, no, that is so wrong. Because I'm not gay. I would be pissed.
Well, and you're removing the whole force and control aspect out of it.
Exactly.
You didn't voluntarily at 9 say to a 21-year-old kid, "Hey, why don't you anally bang me?"
Exactly. Right.
They take that from they're using coerciveness and force.
It's a whole different ballgame. Exactly.
It's nothing. Like a child can't consent to anything.
I'm like, it's not the same.
Yeah.
I'm like, and when I tell people that story, and they're like, what? And I was like, yeah. I said, whatever. I was like, I know I'm not. I says, I know who I am. But yeah, it was, it was just a crazy,
Well, abuse is a mind fuck for you, know.
It's
whether you're male or female.
Yeah.
It's
right.
It scrambles.
We're talking about males, but it happens to females too, and
Yeah.
it's a total mind fuck, is right.
Yeah. And what about going home and telling your parents?
Oh no, that was when I first got divorced with my first wife. My parents. I was at my sister's, and I came there. They came over, and my mom, being my mom, she comes in, and crying, the whole 9 yards, and their thing was, see, because that's the generation they grew up. You gotta go back. You gotta go back home. You gotta go back. You can't
stay married.
Yeah, you gotta stay married. You can't go back home. So I, told her, she's like, oh, and then, when I told her what had happened, because that was really the first time like I really said anything to anybody in my family, my brother, my sister, my mom, and my mom and dad, And I told my ex, my wife, my
Oh,
first
you
wife.
told her.
Oh yeah, I told her. And
before you got divorced?
Well, when we were going through, when I was going through this, destructive path of mine,
infidelities
and
ruined the marriage,
right?
And that's when you told her.
And that's, and I said, listen, I need to get a grasp, and still, even after that, I still continued bad relationship because I really never got a grasp. But she knew. Then I, going back to it, my parents, and my mom is like, oh my God. She's like, where was I don't understand. She goes, I used to see you go there. You used to come back. How did I not know? Right. So there was that, motherly, like, oh my God, my son, like, oh my God. And then in the next breath, she's like, well, you can't say nothing to nobody. So I remember saying to her, I was like, wow. I was like, you're worried about people finding out and not worried about me? I was like, wow. As much as I love my mother, she was my mom, did the best, her and my dad did the best that they could, coming from a whole country that they lived in their whole lives, coming from where they lived to a whole new country. I had a lot of resentment towards her for that statement, a lot. But past that, it's, but at the time,
yeah,
that's
understandable.
At the time, that's that's how it was, and it was like, holy shit. It was like, you're worried about what the fuck people are gonna say.
Right.
It's like, what about me?
Yeah.
And I remember also when I told my ex, and we're splitting up, and my daughter didn't want to come near me. So I don't know. Like, I didn't have this conversation with my daughter. I don't know if she even remembers. But of course, in my mind, I'm thinking that my ex might have said something to her about what had happened, and she didn't, she didn't want to come near me. And I remember going into the bathroom and fucking bawling my eyes out because my daughter wouldn't come near me, So I don't know if it correlated because of what I had told my ex, and she might have said something to my daughter, but I don't know. But it was something like, if conversation comes up, if she remembered it. But I remember it because I took it as like, oh my God, now my kid doesn't want to. My kid doesn't want to come near me.
So your mother and that event are just adding more shame to you.
Exactly.
And it's making you silent.
Fucking wow.
Secrets.
It was like,
yeah, keep secrets.
Right. Exactly. So yeah.
This is what happens when I speak out. I'll never speak out.
But that's exactly. And then it went from one therapist to another bad relationships to still chasing women to still, excessively drinking. And the drinking would be like, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, I drink like
fish.
A lot. I would drink, a lot.
And just having sex with whoever,
and
taking chicks home from the nightclub or the bar,
whatever I could grab.
Thinking that'll
what, thinking like, oh wait, look, I'm not gay. I'm hanging out with women.
Yeah.
But I'm not gay. We're not. We think, but we know we're not. And again, I'm not saying that it's bad that if you're gay. No, it's not.
Well, I think when it's male on male, we view it as like a homosexual act versus it's a control act.
100% right. We view it as, yes, where you're not freely doing it. You are being controlled. It's
right.
That's exactly what it is.
I had somebody who was going to be a guest on who is gay, and he said to me he sent me a message. I want to be on your show. He goes, just to let you know, I'm gay though, and he goes, if you're uncomfortable with it, I totally get it because I'm uncomfortable with being gay. And I was like, wow.
Oh, wow.
Like, I'm like, I got to talk to this guy, because that's just a real, that statement hit me,
Yeah.
like he's uncomfortable with his
With his own
identity.
identity, right?
Yeah. And so we talked, and I'm like, do you think your abuse had anything to do with your sexuality? He's like, well, I think it had to play a role. He goes, just I'm in that stage where I don't know my identity. I don't know anything about sex. And I'm having, my uncle do all this stuff to me. And he's like, so how could that not play some sort of role? I'm like, I go, it's usually something, everybody says it's something you're born with, and you either are or aren't. I said, maybe you just hadn't gotten to the stage where you knew whether you were or not. And I go, this just put you over the hump,
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. He ended up not coming on the show. We know where our sexuality lies,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's just and it's just a shame, especially with men. It's just viewed as, we conjure this up in our minds. Our minds are our own worst enemies,
Subconscious mind has a powerful, you have to constantly, I constantly have to change perspectives. I constantly look at things in a positive. Because if we look at everything in a negative, it's always going to be a negative. Because we're putting negative into our head, and I just didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted off the merry-go-round. I call it the merry-go-round in all aspects of life. You got to get off the merry-go-round. Otherwise, you keep repeating the same patterns. For me, I was like, bad relationships, infidelities, drinking, all of that shit. And you'll continue down that path if you don't get off.
You're on autopilot.
You're on autopilot. You're just,
right.
It's same results with different people.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
And I think it's interesting also that you chose to become a police officer. Like I spoke for a lot of law enforcement. They've been my biggest supporter, a lot of prosecutors. I speak at child advocacy centers, a lot of therapists, a lot of nurses, and like the number of them, from law enforcement to therapists to nurses who have been abused, like they all come up to me afterwards and just be like, thank you. Same thing happened to me. Like, and then so you go into a field where you can try to help people and protect people because you weren't protected.
My whole life, I've been a protector.
Yeah.
I've been told that I've been, have that gift that I always wanted to protect, even at work as a cop. I worked in East New York, one of the 7-5 precinct, one of the toughest precincts in New York City. Still violent today, but they're good people that live there. And that's who I work for.
And did you ever have any cases of abuse that you
I
had to deal with?
So I had one that came up, that this girl being abused by her uncle. And I could just see the fear in her eyes, the pain. And first time that I actually brought that up to a total complete stranger, and my partner was there, and he, when I said, hey, listen, I says, I'm a police officer, but it happened to me. I said, I says, I can get another female officer here if you want, and you can talk to her, you can talk to me. I actually had the uncle on the phone, and of course he wasn't going to come. I asked him to come here just talk, but he wasn't coming. He wasn't going to come. I'm glad he didn't, because I didn't know what I would have did. Right. Because I saw that pain in her and my own pain, but that was my only interaction like that, where besides now, this is years later, of course now my parents know, my siblings know, and they're the only ones that really knew, Now here I'm telling this girl, and now my partner's like to my right. He knows. We never talked about it.
Never brought it up.
Nope.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure in his mind, he's like, holy fuck. I just told him something. And here I am, big ass, bad cop.
Right.
Just was like telling some girl, hey, happened to me. But we never talked about
it. Is he ready to open up Pandora's box? You know, and obviously he wasn't.
No, no. So which is fine. It was we're looking at it now, it's fine. But he didn't talk about it. But again, I shut it down. You know what I mean? I had to shut that down and bury it. I couldn't bring it up. I'm on a job that needs me to focus on what's around us and my partner. I couldn't bring that I couldn't bring that up within me. So I had to bury it like everything else, whether it be at home, on a job, wherever I went,
Yeah, I got out of prison and like you can't go around telling guys in prison, stuff like this,
No.
And I needed to talk about prison. I needed to like break the trauma from prison off of me, and I needed to talk about my abuse. In court was the only time I had talked about it, and some of my closest friends, were like, "Oh, you've been through so much. Let's just let that lie, man. You don't need to. You don't need." I'm like, "No, I do need to.
I need to.
Yeah,
I need to open up.
I
gotta get it. I gotta get it out. Right.
Yeah,
I gotta get
it
it
just
off me.
it made people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They don't know how to. People think they have to fix you when you got a problem. You don't have to fix me. You just got to sit in the muck with me and let me talk. That's it.
I don't need you to say anything. Just listen.
That's the mistake everybody makes.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh my God, I got to fix Pasquale right now. No, you don't. You just got to listen to Pasquale.
Well, the only person that's ever going to fix anybody is ourselves.
Right.
Because that's the bottom line, really.
Your first marriage gets ruined.
And my second marriage comes along.
How further down the road?
So now I'm 47.
How long in between them?
Oh, God, man, long time. At that time, me and my first, it's like 15 years.
Before you got married again?
Before I got married again.
So that 15 years, is it just like running through women?
That 15 years is just running relationships, women, drinking. If I didn't drink, I made up for it. Crazy shit, going out, chasing, trying to be this fucking guy. Like, yeah, I took down 3 girls today. Okay, great.
Yeah, right. Like that'll make me a man. Right.
It makes you nothing.
Right.
It's not being a man. It makes you less of a man.
Yeah.
But those were my coping. Those were things when it came up. And if you came to me and you talked about it and you wanted, you put my arms went up, you're pushing me in a corner, I got defensive. I didn't want to talk. If you would have met me years ago, here I am in a studio talking about personal stuff that happened to me. I never talked. Anybody that you could tell anybody the way I talk now, never did.
Shut off.
I
from
shut
the
off.
World.
I shut off, and I did what I wanted to do. And I used, unfortunately, yes, I did use the abuse of saying, well, fuck it, I got abused. I lost this. I'm trying to make up for it. But that's the shit I would tell myself.
Yeah.
It's so fucking wrong. I know it's wrong now because you can't use that I use that as a crutch to justify my actions in a sense, But
yeah, as did I. As does all, and we got to get off of autopilot at some time, and we're responsible for our actions. Like nobody put the ounce of blow under my nose. I grabbed that. Nobody made me go through
right.
One woman after another. I did that. Nobody, made me go gamble hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I did all that. So I try to just get people now, like, to just be present and be in the present moment and not be on that autopilot switch where, I mean, because, all right, so horrible thing was done to you, but now it's up to you to heal. Like nobody else is going to heal you.
Nobody's going to do it. Yeah. You're not going to, you got to heal on your own.
So now you get
so
married.
now you get married.
Get married a second time.
Get married a second time.
And are we still doing the same thing? With the
in the beginning, I thought it was like,
this will be the one. This
great,
will straighten me out.
Right. This is going to straighten me out. Blah blah blah. Then we had issues. There's kids, and in hindsight, and she's a wonderful person. She really is a wonderful person. And I have kids. She has kids. We move right in. Like 3 months later, she moves me in. We get engaged. Like it was all good, but I'm not dealing with shit. I'm not. Then the reality of life, of everyday life, pops up. Her children, my kids, my own shit, coexisting, marriage, doing this, and again, not dealing, shutting down, and then not talking, not communicating, and then you go off. And you go off into your own little, and I go off into my own little world and start. And she she bartended, and I had asked, I would go and go there, and I would drink, and then I was drinking at home more so than I ever did before. Because now it's more. Now I'm getting older, and then all of these things, as you're older, and in what's in your mind, you still have that pain of things that pop up, events, being in that basement, getting a penis put in your mouth. Like it fucked with me to made me even more in a sense of self-sabotage and self-sabotaging everything, and then that fell apart. I needed it.
Needed it to fall apart?
I needed it.
That was like a wake up?
Yeah,
like,
that was my...
This is going to be the rest of my existence if I don't...
This was my biggest... But I was really at a low point in my life. I was just like... I went back home to my house because I owned my home. We were together in her home that she owned, and I went back to my home.
How long is this into the marriage? The second one?
So we were only married. We were together a little over 4 years, and but I went back home, and and in that marriage, that and looking back at it, that showed me how I was compensating by fixing the home and trying to not fix her kids, but try to be the man that they didn't have in their lives. And I was a fixer for everybody
but
me.
Right.
So I remember sitting in the back room and in the house, and I just had this overwhelming feeling like I don't belong here. Like I knew like something was like I don't belong here. And listen, maybe we could have fixed it. Maybe we could. I don't know, but I just knew like I couldn't. I didn't belong here. Like I needed to go. I needed to go somewhere. Right. I couldn't just be there. But she didn't understand that. Again, I told her. I wrote a 9-page letter. Me writing a 9-page letter of outlining my life and how and where I was and why I was and this and this. And of course, people they're not going to understand, whereas you and I or anybody else that's been abused, they're not going to understand the things we may say. And I don't think she really understood. She only understood that I cheated. And I understand that. And for any regrets that I may have is actually regretting hurting them and hurting others along the way, But that marriage that those years that went through, I hit rock bottom. I went back home, and I was in the basement of my house. So I had rented the house, and here I am downstairs. I broke out crying in my bathroom, sobbing, because I had a conversation with myself. I go, when are you going to stop? When is it going to stop? I knew that there was more for me. I had to get off the merry-go-round, because otherwise that was going to be my life with just different faces.
Right.
If I didn't get a hold of it. And listen, that was the beginning, and there was stumbling blocks. There's for every.
Well, how did you get off the merry-go-round? What did
I started therapy.
More intensive therapy.
More intensive therapy. I opened up a little more of what was going on with me, and then I started finding out the whys. Why am I doing this? Why? Always asking why. Why am I feeling this way? When I'm feeling a certain way, why do I react that way? Listen, it's 5 years, 4 years, it's 4 or 5, years of doing it. But in the last 2 years is really when I know I needed to really focus on why. Why am I feeling this way? Because it wasn't easy, Clark. You're not going to be healed in fucking 2 months, because people have this thing about seeing a therapist and they're like, oh, we're good. That was me. Okay, I'm good. I could deal with it. No, you fucking can't deal with it. You can't. I'm a big believer in finding somebody that you could talk to and opening up, because you can't do it alone. You need another party to get you to where you want to be. And healing is a lifetime event. But it's really I started to understand me. I needed to understand me and why. And the more I talked about what happened, the easier it got. And the easier I let it go. Not let it control me or have that power over me.
Has it been lately the same therapist for the last couple of years?
I've been using her now about, it's almost a year. And she picked it up right off the bat when I first met her. She's like, you were, something happened to you. She goes, she sensed it. She's a very spiritual woman. She's great. But she knew, and it's great talking to, it's great. But I find myself now telling people that know me, I just did it last week. I went into, a friend of mine has a storefront right by my house. I went in there to say hello to her, right? Known her and her brother for the longest time, both Deer Park residents. And I went in there, and I don't know. See, I'm a big believer of things happening for a reason.
Yeah.
I believe in universe, and I believe in all of that stuff, right? So I walk in there, long story short, we start talking. And we're talking about life, and we're talking about things. So I said, listen, and there was a woman that I just met that worked for her. I don't even know her. So she's there, woman's there. And another friend of mine came in, male. And we're talking. I said, you know what, listen. I said, this is why I say when people do things, they do it, but there's some kind of, unless you're a total fucking evil person, that's different. I'm just talking about everyday people. You and I, we go through things in life. Things happen, right? I go, you don't know. I said, I'm going to tell you guys right now. I said, I was abused. I was sexually abused as a kid. They're like, my friend didn't know what he's like, are you seeing somebody? That was his response. Like, are you fucking seeing somebody? That's like, I've been, It felt good, especially to a total stranger.
Yeah.
Felt good. So I know that I'm on the path, that I'm on the right path. I'm on that journey because here I am.
And now you're in a studio.
Now I'm in a studio talking
wow.
about it. I mean, it's going to reach others, Yeah,
I say to everybody, breaking your silence is the toughest thing to do, but it's the most rewarding.
Rewarding.
It's the biggest healer. Like, how can you heal from something if you can't even talk about it?
You need to talk about it.
Yeah.
We came from an era that you fucking did not talk about it, and you buried it.
Kids were meant to be seen, not heard.
I write stuff every day. Today I wrote something, and I always start off with, and Breen Brown.
Oh, Brene Brown.
Brene Brown.
Brene, yeah.
I love her. I read her book, and be seen, be heard. It is so fucking true. It's being seen and then being heard with no judgments. You know.
So here you're this big, strong guy, retired cop, and you're listening to Miss Brown talk about trauma.
And I tell people, and they're like, and I told somebody, and I you know, and I met this wonderful person, and she does this healing and it's sound therapy, and I love it. And I'm telling somebody at the gym, and she's like, she goes, I did not expect that from you. I go, listen, there's a lot of things that if I tell you here right now, you wouldn't even expect, probably blow your fucking mind. I said, but we'll save that for another day. I said, yeah, I like that stuff. I says, it's healing for me. I go, I like it. I says, I'm a big proponent of it. You know, I says, communication is the key. I says, because I didn't have that. I says, you didn't know me back then. You would see me walk in here and probably just walk to the back, do my thing, and walk the fuck out and not really say. The only time I would drink is, the only time I would speak is if I had a good fucking buzz on or I was on the chase. I was good at that. But when it came to reality and everyday things that we need to talk about, that we don't talk about, I wouldn't talk about it.
So in your relationships, you're just shut down.
Shut down.
Yeah, that's gonna make it impossible.
Go fuck yourself. Don't talk. What?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you think that of me? Okay, I'll show you.
Yeah.
You know, ego.
Yeah.
Ego, pride kills. You know, killed a lot of shit for me.
Looking back on everything, you know, how would you want to share with the audience? Whatever it may be, biggest life lessons, regrets, how you stay healthy now, what's helped you get to this point in life, whatever avenue or all of those you want to share. Like,
I mean, I'll probably be all over the place, but listen.
Biggest regret
is hurting people that were close to me, especially my two wives.
Okay.
That I had, you know, that is that's a big one. You know, but here I am, you know, so there's always something that's got to give, you know, to get to where you are.
And you had to hit rock bottom,
and I had to
decide,
and I
want more out of life.
Yeah, I had to hit that spot.
Biggest, what's been your life lessons throughout this life so far?
Life lessons is, I tell my kids this: communicate. I don't care what it is. I don't care. Communicate with your partner, with your husband, with your, you know, obviously my daughter with her husband, my son with his wife. Communicate, figure it out, talk. There is no right or wrong. It's communication. It's finding that place where you both can say, okay, we came to a decision. Here it is. Move forward. If something is bothering you, if there's something that deep down that you need to get it out. Because if it doesn't, I tell them this. I go, I'm a prime example of it. If you don't let it out of you, it will turn into an explosion. I'll never judge you, ever. But I always tell them infidelity is wrong. I know people break up. I understand. Listen, I'm not the first guy that's cheated, or won't be the first woman that's cheated. That's never going to define you. It never will. What defines you is how you rise from it and make the choices that are conducive for your physical, mental, and spiritual health. Because I won't be the last one, and I wasn't the first, and I certainly won't be the last. So my message there is, man or woman, work through it. Find a place that you can heal. And I get it also. It may not work, but at least give it a chance. And then if you can't be in that marriage, okay, you're divorced. But yet you're leaving with something. You're not leaving with anger, regrets, or anything like that. Communication is the key.
And what keeps you on a good path now? What do you do? What does Pasquale do on a regular basis?
I follow a bunch of people on social media. I'm a big proponent of for as bad as social media can be, it's also a great tool because you will find a lot of helpful information on there, and you will find people that make sense. In our case, I found you because we share something, and many others that follow you probably share the same thing. And if you follow somebody on social media, I would also recommend finding somebody you can physically talk to twice a month, once a week if you need be. Then it can go to, once a month, twice a month. Read, go to the gym, eat healthy, just do something constantly. Simplify it. Simplify your life.
So healthy habits, work out, eat healthy.
Eat healthy. Listen, I'll tell you right now, we can talk about it and, people say, well, it sounds easy. I go, nothing is easy. I says, for as good as where I'm at, I go, I stumble still. I fall. I see sometimes I revert back to things that I used to, but if you do the work, you become mindful, you bring awareness, and then you say, oh shit. I go, it's no judgment against. I go, I used to judge myself terribly. Don't beat yourself up for the choice you made. There's a lesson in it. You have to take the lesson from it. Don't continue it because your ego or your pride is telling you, yeah, fuck. No, look at it and say, well, okay, why did I put myself in that situation? I think I've said to you before when we've talked on the phone, people love to judge, right? People judge you. I've done it. And working with the therapist I have now, she brings up, and I use it all the time. She says, listen, the only person that's ever going to judge us is, which I believe is the guy upstairs. We're no longer here. We'll be called to answer whatever it is, right? We're human. We fuck up. We make mistakes. I'm not talking about people who do things intentionally. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about just everyday life. We're human. We make mistakes. We do things, blah, blah, blah. We can judge the situation, but not the person. Because the person, you can judge them, but I say, well, I'm not going to judge you, but you put yourself in that situation. You could judge the situation as, why did you put yourself there? Why? What were you looking for in that particular moment? Was it because you needed? Because listen, I need somebody to love, right? We're geared to be connected. So is it because of that? Because you wanted somebody? I said, okay, I understand it. You have to ask the whys. Why am I putting myself in that situation? It doesn't always have to be bad. It could be a good thing. It's a good, you look at it and say, why? Ask yourself why.
Ask why.
Ask why.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Great.
Next step in your journey. Cross this off the list.
Yep.
So glad you're able to break your silence, man. It's the key.
Yeah.
And
good.
Somebody will hear this and be like, "Wow, all right, he was a cop and he's on there. If he can do it, I can do it."
That's all I want. I don't want any. It's okay to talk about it. Don't let it. I did a healing session and they said they felt me shackled, right? I said, yeah. I said, I get it now. I said, the shackles are coming off. Because I don't, It's about being free.
That's it.
It's just about being free. And I don't want anybody, if I can come on here and talk about it, man or woman, you can too.
Right on, brother.
That's it.
Thanks, pal.
Thank you.
There you have it, everybody. Pasquale, retired NYPD officer, talking about his past, letting that shame go. And you heard right at the end, he said, I want to be free. Free like me. We'll see you next week. Peace.